Part 1, titled The Quiet Town, sets the stage for the story, introducing the environment, key characters, and the tension that will drive the plot. The town of Santa Vereda is a typical dusty western settlement, isolated in a vast arid landscape. Its wooden buildings, sun-bleached streets, and saloon with swinging doors paint a picture of the Old West. Life here is slow and predictable. Most of the townspeople are hardworking farmers, shopkeepers, or ranch hands living in quiet routines. There is an underlying sense of vulnerability because, like many frontier towns, law enforcement is limited and justice is often a matter of personal courage rather than formal authority. At the center of this calm life is El Viejo, an elderly cowboy who lives on the outskirts of town. He is physically unassuming, weathered, with a gray beard, deep lines carved into his face from years under the sun, and eyes that seem to miss nothing. He dresses plainly, wearing a worn poncho and a battered hat, blending with the dusty landscape. Despite his humble appearance, El Viejo exudes an air of quiet confidence and self-possession, hinting at a life filled with experience and skill, though the townspeople know little of his past. He spends his days tending to a small plot of land, helping a few neighbors, and mentoring a young boy named Tomas, teaching him horse riding, roping, and the values of honesty and courage. These small acts make him a quietly respected figure, though most people consider him just an old man with a few useful skills. The peace of Santa Vereda is disrupted by a gang of local thugs. These men are brash, cruel, and reckless, taking advantage of the town's isolation. They spend their days in the saloon, drinking, gambling, and causing trouble, often at the expense of innocent townsfolk. Their arrogance is palpable. They see themselves as untouchable and view the town's citizens as easy prey. Their behavior is designed to intimidate. They mock shopkeepers, harass children, and disrupt social gatherings. Their presence is a dark cloud over the town, creating fear and uncertainty and leaving the townspeople feeling powerless to stop them. The thug's attention eventually turns to El Viejo, largely because of his quiet demeanor and visible independence. One afternoon, as El Viejo walks through town, the gang deliberately provokes him. They throw insults at his age, question his relevance, and challenge his ability to protect those around him. They do this in front of the townspeople, trying to embarrass both El Viejo and the community. The contrast between their aggressive energy and his calm composure is striking. Where they act impulsively, he reacts with measured restraint. He speaks little, but every word carries weight, suggesting he has lived through far greater dangers than they could imagine. This part of the story establishes a critical theme: underestimation and hidden strength. The thugs, blinded by arrogance, assume that El Viejo is weak simply because he is old. This assumption sets up the narrative tension, as the audience can sense that appearances are deceiving. El Viejo's quiet vigilance foreshadows the skills and courage he will soon reveal. His observation of the town, the people, and the gang's movements shows he is not a passive figure. He is an active guardian, biding his time until the moment he must act. Additionally, Part 1 emphasizes the social dynamics of the town. Most citizens live under the thug's subtle tyranny, afraid to speak up or take action. El Viejo's presence, however, is a silent reassurance, a reminder that there is someone who sees and understands the injustice, even if he does not yet intervene openly. Through his interactions with Tomas and other townspeople, the story highlights the contrast between fear and courage, inexperience and wisdom, youth and age. By the end of Part 1, the stage is fully set, a peaceful yet vulnerable town, a group of arrogant and disruptive thugs, and a quiet but watchful old man whose past is shrouded in mystery. The tension is palpable, and the reader is left with a sense of anticipation, knowing that the thug's underestimation of El Viejo will eventually lead to conflict. The quiet town is not as safe as it seems, and the calm before the storm is about to be shattered. Part 2, titled The Provocation, escalates the tension in Santa Verita, moving the story from a quiet, uneasy calm toward open conflict. This section focuses on the arrogant thugs and their deliberate actions to challenge El Viejo, while also revealing his calm, measured response and hinting at the legendary skills he hides beneath his aged exterior. The chapter opens with the gang, feeling their dominance in the town is unquestioned, deciding to make a public display of their power. They target Tomas, the young boy whom El Viejo mentors. Tomas represents the innocence and hope of the town, and the thugs' harassment of him is both symbolic and strategic. By intimidating someone so closely connected to El Viejo, they hope to provoke the old man into submission or humiliation. They corner Tomas near the saloon, tossing insults and threatening him with minor violence. The townspeople watch in silent fear, unsure whether to intervene. El Viejo arrives quietly, observing from a distance. Rather than rushing in, he assesses the situation with the same precision one might expect from a seasoned tracker or gunslinger. Every movement of the thugs, every glance of Tomas, every positioning of the townsfolk is noted in his sharp, eagle-eyed perception. This establishes a central aspect of his character: patience and strategy. He understands that reacting impulsively could escalate the violence unnecessarily, but he also knows he must act to protect the boy and uphold the moral order of the town. The thugs, noticing El Viejo, begin mocking him openly. They deride his age, scoffing at his slow walk and assuming he lacks the energy or skill to confront them. One of the ringleaders even taunts, "What can an old man like you do? Go back to milking your cows and telling stories, Grandpa." This blatant disrespect highlights a core theme of the story: the underestimation of hidden strength. The reader is given subtle clues that El Viejo is more than he seems, though the townspeople and the gang remain oblivious. El Viejo responds with calm, deliberate words. Rather than escalating with anger, he issues a quiet warning, a reminder that their actions have consequences. His tone is firm but measured, carrying the weight of someone accustomed to authority and confrontation. The thugs, intoxicated with arrogance, dismiss his words, interpreting his restraint as weakness. This interaction emphasizes the contrast between youthful recklessness and seasoned wisdom, a recurring motif in the story. Tension builds as the thugs escalate their provocation. They begin destroying property, throwing objects, and attempting to corner El Viejo and Tomas simultaneously. The townspeople, paralyzed by fear, begin to realize the danger of the situation, but no one dares to step forward. In these moments, Part 2 skillfully heightens the stakes. The threat is no longer abstract. It is immediate, and the town's fragile sense of order teeters on the brink of chaos. Amid the mounting threat, the narrative introduces subtle hints of El Viejo's past. He moves with deliberate precision, avoiding unnecessary conflict but positioning himself strategically, as if anticipating every possible action of the thugs. Readers may notice his deliberate stance, the way he scans the environment, and the careful choice of his words, all signs that he is not merely a passive observer but a man, shaped by countless battles and confrontations. These hints serve to foreshadow his legendary identity as Ojo de Aguila, building anticipation for the eventual reveal. The chapter reaches its climax when the thugs make a direct physical attempt to intimidate El Viejo. One lunges toward Tomas, and El Viejo steps forward calmly, intercepting the aggression without resorting to violence, yet his movements are so precise and deliberate that they suggest a hidden power. The thugs, confused and slightly unsettled, momentarily hesitate. This moment is critical. It demonstrates El Viejo's authority and control without fully revealing the depth of his lethal capabilities. By the end of Part 2, the stage is set for inevitable conflict. The thug's arrogance has grown, as they believe they have successfully humiliated and tested El Viejo. The old cowboy, meanwhile, has subtly established the rules of engagement. He will not be provoked into rash action, but he will protect those under his care. The townspeople begin to glimpse the quiet strength within him, and readers sense the impending shift from provocation to confrontation. This part solidifies the story's tension and sets up the trajectory for the rest of the plot, where the legend of Ojo de Aguila will gradually emerge in response to injustice. Part 3, titled The Past Revealed, delves into the history of El Viejo, gradually unveiling the legendary man behind the quiet facade of Santa Vereda's old cowboy. This section is crucial because it provides context for his skills, temperament, and moral code, while also building suspense for the story's escalating conflict. It shifts the narrative from immediate tension in the present to the layers of memory, regret, and reputation that define El Viejo's character. The chapter begins with subtle hints of El Viejo's extraordinary past. After the provocations by the thugs in Part 2, he retreats to his modest home, a simple cabin at the edge of town surrounded by cacti and scrubland alone. He performs his evening routine with deliberate care, cleaning his weapons, tending his horses, and reviewing maps of the surrounding terrain. These seemingly ordinary tasks reveal a disciplined, almost ritualistic side, emphasizing that El Viejo's calm and patience are not accidental, but honed traits from a life of vigilance and danger. The story then transitions into a flashback. In his younger years, El Viejo was known as Ojo de Aguila, a name whispered with both respect and fear across the Western territories. He was a gunslinger unmatched in precision and strategy. Towns and settlements knew him as a relentless pursuer of justice, often taking on outlaws that no one else dared confront. His moniker, Eagle Eye, came from his ability to hit any target, even in seemingly impossible situations, and from his sharp perception, always several steps ahead of his opponents. El Viejo's past is not just a tale of skill, however. It is intertwined with tragedy and moral dilemmas. Once, during a notorious pursuit of a dangerous gang, he made a choice that cost innocent lives. Although he eliminated the outlaws, collateral damage haunted him, and the burden of those events led him to leave the life of a roaming gunslinger behind. He retired to Santa Vereda, seeking peace, anonymity, and the chance to live a simple, meaningful life, mentoring young Tomas and helping the townspeople quietly. This backstory humanizes him, showing that his formidable abilities are tempered by experience, conscience, and regret. The chapter also emphasizes the contrast between El Viejo's present and past. To the townsfolk, he is merely an elderly cowboy, slow, quiet, and seemingly frail. Yet in private moments, when he handles his weapons, surveys the town, or considers the provocations of the thugs, glimpses of Ojo de Aguila's former precision and decisiveness shine through. This duality is central to the story's tension. While the thugs underestimate him, the reader begins to understand that beneath the quiet exterior lies a man capable of extraordinary feats. Additionally, Part 3 explores the psychological aspect of El Viejo's life. He struggles with the burden of legacy and self-imposed exile. He wishes to avoid the violence of his past, yet he cannot ignore injustice when it threatens the innocent. His teachings to Tomas about courage, patience, and justice reflect both his wisdom and his need to shape a better future without repeating past mistakes. This duality makes him a compelling figure. He is both a mentor and a warrior, a man shaped by past victories and past failures. To further enrich the narrative, the story presents townsfolk anecdotes about Ojo de Aguila. A wandering trader recalls a tale of a young gunslinger who disarmed an entire gang without firing a single shot, while an old saloon owner mentions a sharpshooter who once stopped a bank robbery with uncanny precision. These stories circulate quietly in Santa Vereda, foreshadowing the eventual revelation of El Viejo's true identity. They also create a sense of mystique and anticipation for the audience. The legend is real, and the old man is capable of far more than anyone currently realizes. By the end of Part 3, the stage is fully prepared for action. The reader now understands why El Viejo behaves with such restraint and strategy. His patience is a product of both skill and morality. The thug's provocations are not merely foolish, they are dangerously ignorant of the man they are challenging. This chapter elevates the narrative from a simple tale of a town under threat to a story of legacy, redemption, and the careful balancing of past and present. In summary, Part 3 transforms El Viejo from a seemingly ordinary old man into a legendary figure with depth and complexity. It bridges his quiet life in Santa Vereda with his formidable past, setting the emotional and narrative groundwork for the coming confrontations. The reader is left with a sense of awe and anticipation, knowing that the moment when Ojo de Aguila must rise again is approaching, and that the thugs will soon discover the grave mistake of underestimating him. Part 4, titled The First Confrontation, marks the turning point where the tension in Santa Vereda escalates into direct action. After the careful build-up of Parts 1 through 3 establishing the town, the provocations by the thugs, and El Viejo's legendary past, this section brings the story to a thrilling clash that showcases his skill, strategy, and unyielding moral code. It also serves as the first public demonstration of the man behind the myth of Ojo de Aguila, signaling to both the townsfolk and the audience that the quiet old cowboy is far more than he seems. The confrontation begins on a calm evening, with the sun casting long shadows over the dusty streets. The thugs, humiliated by the warnings and subtle defiance of El Viejo in the previous encounters, decide to escalate their intimidation. They plan a direct attack at his home, intending to provoke him and prove their dominance once and for all. They arrive in a group, loud and reckless, expecting an easy victory against an old man who appears defenseless. This sets the stage for a dramatic clash that contrasts arrogance with wisdom, aggression with precision. El Viejo, anticipating the attack, does not meet them head-on with brute force. Instead, he employs strategy, preparation, and cunning, traits that define his legendary reputation. His home, while modest, is surrounded by carefully placed defensive measures, hidden traps, vantage points for sharpshooting, and knowledge of the terrain that only a veteran gunslinger could utilize. Every movement he makes is deliberate, measured, and precise, reflecting years of experience and the sharpness of Ojo de Aguila. This careful setup emphasizes the story as theme that true power often lies beneath a calm and unassuming exterior. As the thugs approach, the confrontation begins subtly. El Viejo allows them to enter his property, observing their patterns, weaknesses, and overconfidence. Their loud, reckless energy contrasts sharply with his quiet focus. One thug attempts to charge him, expecting an easy scuffle, only to be stopped by a clever maneuver, a rope trap that trips him, followed by a warning shot that shatters a nearby jar, startling the others. The scene demonstrates El Viejo's skill in using the environment to his advantage, turning his home into a tactical fortress without directly harming anyone, yet enough to signal that he is not to be underestimated. The confrontation escalates as the thugs grow frustrated, attacking more aggressively. El Viejo moves with remarkable precision and speed, his actions fluid, almost instinctual. He disarms one attacker with a single well-placed shot that targets the weapon rather than the man, sending it flying across the ground. Another thug is caught in a trap that immobilizes him temporarily. Through these actions, the story emphasizes that El Viejo's legendary status is not just in shooting skill, but in his ability to anticipate, manipulate, and control a chaotic situation. Every move reflects intelligence and discipline rather than raw aggression. At the same time, Part 4 explores the psychological dimension of the confrontation. The thugs are stunned. Their overconfidence gives way to fear and confusion as they realize that the old man is far more capable than they ever imagined. The townsfolk, witnessing parts of the confrontation from a distance, begin to sense the truth about El Viejo. Whispers circulate about Ojo de Aguila, and rumors of the legendary gunslinger resurface in hushed tones. The narrative uses this moment to bridge the myth with reality, creating a palpable tension. The reader, along with the town, is coming to understand that a hidden force is defending them. The first confrontation concludes with the thugs retreating, humiliated and shaken, but alive. El Viejo chooses not to pursue them beyond the bounds of his home, reinforcing his moral code. He is not driven by vengeance, but by justice and protection. His restraint distinguishes him from the thugs, showing that true strength lies not in aggression, but in discipline, wisdom, and the courage to act decisively when necessary. This moment cements his role as a protector of Santa Vereda, while also signaling to the antagonists that they have underestimated a legend whose patience and skill are formidable. By the end of Part 4, several narrative objectives are achieved. The stakes are raised, demonstrating that the town is no longer merely under threat. It is now a stage for a legendary gunslinger to assert justice. El Viejo's skills are revealed in action, satisfying the audience's curiosity while maintaining tension for future encounters. The townspeople gain a growing sense of hope and admiration, while the thug's arrogance is punctured, setting the stage for the next escalation. In summary, Part 4 functions as the story's first major action set piece. It blends suspense, strategy, and character revelation, transforming El Viejo from a quiet observer into an active defender of the town. The confrontation establishes key themes: hidden strength, moral justice, and the weight of legacy, while thrilling the reader with precise cinematic action that foreshadow. Part 5, titled Rising Tensions, builds on the events of the first confrontation and shifts the story from a single clash to an escalating conflict that threatens the town of Santa Vereda. This section explores the consequences of the previous encounter, showing how the thugs respond to their humiliation, how El Viejo strategizes for the future, and how the townsfolk begin to understand the true power of the man they had long underestimated. It is a critical part of the story because it expands the stakes, deepens character development, and heightens suspense, all while setting the stage for the ultimate showdown. The chapter opens in the aftermath of the first confrontation. The thugs, bruised and humiliated by El Viejo's skillful defense, retreat to their hideout to regroup. Their overconfidence has been shattered, and fear begins to take root. They exchange stories of the old man who disarmed them with ease, capturing their imagination and fueling both anger and obsession. Unlike before, they now recognize that El Viejo is not just a harmless elder. They are dealing with a man capable of precise, calculated action. Their humiliation drives them to plot revenge, vowing to return in greater numbers with more ruthless tactics. This response demonstrates the theme of arrogance meeting consequences and foreshadows the heightened danger that the town will face. Meanwhile, El Viejo does not become complacent. He understands that the thugs' retreat is temporary and that their next move will likely be more aggressive. Unlike the thugs, he does not act out of emotion. He prepares methodically, combining strategy with experience. He begins by surveying the town from vantage points he has known since his youth, noting weak spots and potential ambush areas. He sharpens his firearms, cleans his weapons meticulously, and ensures his traps are in optimal condition. These preparations are not merely for confrontation. They are a display of the discipline and foresight that earned him the nickname Ojo de Aguila. His approach emphasizes a central theme. True mastery comes from patience, planning, and restraint rather than reckless aggression. Part 5 also explores El Viejo's efforts to empower the townsfolk. Having witnessed the first confrontation, many citizens begin to feel a mixture of awe and fear. Some realize that they can no longer rely solely on luck or avoidance to protect themselves. Quietly, El Viejo begins to train a few of the braver townspeople, teaching them basic self-defense, awareness, and strategy. He emphasizes that courage and intelligence are as important as skill with a gun. These lessons serve multiple purposes. They prepare the town for potential future conflicts, deepen the bond between El Viejo and the community, and highlight his role as both a protector and a mentor. The narrative here reinforces the theme of legacy and guidance, showing that the old cowboy's influence extends beyond physical prowess to moral and social leadership. As tensions rise, the thugs begin to terrorize the town more openly. They vandalize property, threaten merchants, and intimidate children. Their behavior demonstrates escalating recklessness as they feel driven by both pride and the need to reassert dominance. The townsfolk, now aware of El Viejo's capabilities but still fearful, watch the unfolding events with a mixture of hope and anxiety. These interactions suspense and deepen the narrative's emotional impact, as readers recognize the growing danger while understanding the potential for heroism. El Viejo himself remains a calm center amidst the chaos. He observes the thugs' movements, anticipates their strategies, and adjusts his own plans accordingly. His mental precision and extension of his legendary sharpshooting is on full display, illustrating that his skills are not limited to physical action but encompass keen perception, tactical thinking, and foresight. Even his interactions with townsfolk reflect this. He conveys reassurance without creating false confidence, teaching patience and strategy subtly through words and example. The chapter culminates in a moment of quiet tension. The thugs make a small but threatening move against the town, testing its defenses. El Viejo, fully prepared, observes without revealing his full hand. This moment serves as a narrative pivot, signaling that the stakes have risen and that the inevitable major confrontation is approaching. The townsfolk begin to recognize that El Viejo is more than a quiet old man. He is a force of justice, a protector who will act decisively when the time comes. The psychological interplay between fear, anticipation, and admiration enriches the story, creating a dynamic tension that carries the narrative forward. By the end of Part 5, the story has accomplished several key goals. The antagonists have grown more dangerous. The protagonist's skills and strategic mind are firmly established, and the town's perception of El Viejo begins to shift from mere curiosity to respect and hope. The narrative tension is carefully calibrated, leaving readers eager to witness the next escalation and the eventual climactic showdown. Themes of justice, preparation, legacy, and moral responsibility are reinforced, while the legend of Ojo de Aguila becomes an increasingly central force driving the story. Part 6, titled The Legendary Showdown, represents the story's climax, where tension, anticipation, and all previous narrative threads converge in a dramatic and cinematic confrontation. After establishing the quiet town, the provocations of the thugs, El Viejo's legendary past, the first confrontation, and rising tensions, the stage is now set for Ojo de Aguila to fully reveal his skills and face the antagonists in a decisive, morally grounded showdown. This part is pivotal, as it combines action, strategy, suspense, and emotional resonance, demonstrating why El Viejo is a figure worthy of legend. The showdown begins on a festival day in Santa Vereda. The townsfolk have gathered to celebrate, unaware of the impending danger. Bright banners hang across the streets, and laughter and music fill the air, providing a stark contrast to the underlying tension. The thugs see this as the perfect opportunity to assert dominance. They plan to attack in public, instill fear, and demonstrate that no one can oppose them. Their arrogance is palpable. They underestimate both the intelligence and skill of El Viejo, believing the festival crowd will limit his ability to act decisively. El Viejo, fully aware of their plan, positions himself strategically. He surveys the town from elevated vantage points and concealed positions, using his knowledge of the terrain to his advantage. Every decision he makes is designed to maximize efficiency, minimize unnecessary harm, and protect the townspeople. This preparation demonstrates the depth of his tactical mind and foreshadows the extraordinary feats that follow. As the thugs initiate their attack, chaos erupts in the streets. Panic spreads among the townsfolk, who scatter to avoid harm. However, El Viejo remains calm, his presence a stabilizing force amid disorder. He neutralizes the first wave with unerring precision, targeting weapons and disarming opponents rather than causing unnecessary fatalities. Each movement is fluid and decisive, showcasing his eagle-eye accuracy and unmatched situational awareness. He combines sharpshooting with environmental manipulation, using barrels, carts, and building corners to control the battlefield. His actions demonstrate the principle that true mastery lies not in brute force, but in strategy, anticipation, and restraint. The thugs, stunned by El Viejo's skill, begin to realize the gravity of their mistake. They attempt to regroup and attack simultaneously, hoping to overwhelm him. Yet, El Viejo anticipates every move, exploiting their overconfidence and impulsiveness. One thug charges from behind a stack of barrels, only to be tripped by a concealed rope. Another raises a gun from a balcony, which El Viejo disarms with a shot aimed carefully at the weapon, not the man. Through these maneuvers, the narrative emphasizes both his lethal skill and his moral code. He defeats aggressors efficiently, but does not kill unnecessarily, highlighting his discipline and humanity. The showdown is also a psychological battle. The thug's fear grows with each failed attempt, while the townsfolk, witnessing El Viejo's prowess, begin to understand his legendary reputation. Whispers spread of Ojo de Aguila, and the legend that once existed in stories and rumors is now made real. This realization transforms the town's perception. The once quiet, elderly cowboy is now seen as a symbol of courage, justice, and hope. The psychological interplay heightens suspense, as readers understand both the stakes for the thugs and the transformative impact on the townspeople. Midway through the confrontation, El Viejo employs strategic misdirection, leading several thugs into traps while maintaining control of the overall battlefield. His movements are almost balletic, precise yet unobtrusive, turning the chaotic scene into a display of skill and intellect. Each tactical decision reflects his past experience, moral restraint, and deep understanding of human behavior. Even in the heat of action, his calm demeanor contrasts sharply with the thug's panic, reinforcing the story's theme of composure under pressure. The climax reaches its peak as the ringleader confronts El Viejo directly. A tense standoff ensues in the center of the main street, with townsfolk watching from a safe distance. El Viejo disarms and neutralizes the ringleader using a combination of sharpshooting and clever maneuvers, effectively ending the gang's threat. The showdown concludes with the remaining thugs fleeing, utterly defeated and humiliated, leaving the town in awe of the legendary figure who protected them. By the end of Part 6, Santa Vereda is saved, the thugs are vanquished, and the legend of Ojo de Aguila is fully realized. The townspeople recognize El Viejo's unparalleled skill, strategic mind, and moral integrity. The showdown serves as a testament to his legacy, blending action, strategy, and character development while reinforcing central themes: justice, patience, discipline, and the triumph of wisdom over arrogance. It is a turning point that solidifies his role as protector and hero, while leaving the narrative open to reflection, legacy, and redemption in the story's conclusion. Part 7, titled Legacy and Redemption, serves as the story's resolution. exploring the aftermath of the climactic showdown and reflecting on the emotional, social, and moral consequences of El Viejo's actions. After the dramatic confrontation in Part 6, the town of Santa Vereda emerges from chaos, forever changed by the return of the legendary gunslinger Ojo de Aguila. This final part emphasizes themes of redemption, respect, legacy, and the nuanced nature of justice, showing how one man's actions can leave a lasting impact on a community. The chapter opens with the town slowly recovering from the shock and disruption caused by the thugs' attack. Streets that were once filled with fear are now quiet, though the air is charged with a sense of awe and gratitude. Townsfolk begin discussing what they witnessed, the incredible precision, strategy, and restraint displayed by El Viejo. For many, the confrontation was not merely a battle, it was a revelation. They now understand that the quiet old cowboy, whom they had once considered a harmless elder, embodies qualities of courage, wisdom, and moral integrity that few have ever seen. This recognition of his abilities establishes the first layer of his legacy. He is not only a protector, but also a symbol of what disciplined, righteous action looks like. El Viejo himself moves quietly through the town, offering support and reassurance to those affected by the conflict. He helps repair damaged property, comforts frightened townspeople, and encourages them to rebuild with resilience. These actions reinforce his moral code. His fight was never about revenge or power, but about justice and protection. Through these gestures, he begins to redeem himself not only in the eyes of the town, but also for his own conscience. The flashbacks in earlier parts of the story hinted at past mistakes and regrets that haunted him. By using his skills to protect innocence rather than pursue vengeance, El Viejo achieves a personal form of redemption. Part 7 also emphasizes the community's transformation. Before the thugs' attack, Santa Vereda's citizens lived in fear, often paralyzed by intimidation and passivity. Witnessing El Viejo's courage inspires them to reclaim a sense of agency and pride. They begin to participate actively in restoring the town, from repairing the saloon to organizing community watch efforts. This development highlights the story's broader theme. True heroism is not just about individual skill, but also about inspiring others to act with courage and integrity. El Viejo's influence extends beyond the immediate victory, shaping the town's character and future. The narrative also reflects on El Viejo's personal evolution. Having faced the thugs decisively, he no longer needs to hide his past or suppress his identity. The legend of Ojo de Aguila is no longer a rumor or a distant memory. It is alive in the eyes of those who witnessed his actions. This acknowledgement allows him to reconcile with his history the mistakes, the battles, and the years of self-imposed exile. Part 7 shows that redemption is not only about atoning for past errors, but also about embracing one's true identity and using it to benefit others. El Viejo accepts that he cannot escape who he is, but he can control how his legacy is defined, not as a ruthless gunslinger, but as a protector guided by justice and honor. The chapter carefully examines the emotional aftermath as well. Tomas, the young boy who represents hope and the future, gains a profound mentor in El Viejo. The experiences of fear, courage, and witnessing the legendary showdown leave a lasting impression on him. Through this mentorship, El Viejo ensures that his values, patience, discipline, strategy, and moral responsibility are passed on to the next generation. This adds a poignant dimension to the story. The legend of Ojo de Aguila is not only rooted in past achievements, but also in the seeds of inspiration planted for the future. Finally, the story concludes on a note of balanced resolution and open-ended possibility. Peace is restored in Santa Vereda, but the presence of Ojo de Aguila remains a subtle reminder that vigilance is ongoing. El Viejo returns to his quiet life, tending to his land and mentoring Tomas, but he does so with the understanding that he is a living legend. The town respects him not only for his skill but for his character, and the story leaves readers with the sense that the legend could rise again should injustice ever threaten the town. This ending reinforces the themes of legacy, moral courage, and the enduring impact of righteous action. In summary, Part 7 ties together the narrative arcs of action, suspense, and character development. It showcases the emotional and social consequences of the legendary showdown, highlighting how El Viejo's courage, discipline, and wisdom transform both himself and his community. The story concludes with a powerful meditation on legacy and redemption. True heroism is not measured solely by feats of strength, but by the ability to protect, inspire, and leave the world better than one found it.